Okay, good evening, everyone. We're doing something a little different here. This is YouTube's own live broadcast interface because just about everything about our broadcast system has broken down. I can't do very much now. So we're using this built-in system. The plus side is I now see chat on the right side, so whether that's a plus or not, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, to our meditators here in the center, I appreciate the work you're doing. I want to talk a little bit about meditation. So I've deleted several questions, as usual. I'm not so keen on answering speculative questions or questions about other traditions. We want to have some kind of a flowing narrative where the whole evening is talking about meditation. So it's a big question, right? What is meditation? I think it's not a question people ask. People don't ask what is meditation, but it is an important one. Because the answer to the question answers a lot of the questions that I get. Not directly, but helps to clear up the underlying issue behind the question. When you understand what meditation is, it's easier to understand the problems that come up during meditation, the issues, and how to deal with the challenges involved with meditation. So meditation is just generally some kind of activity that involves mental training. Our minds can be trained and are constantly training in various ways. We're being influenced by the world around us, and we're developing habits based on the experiences we have. So you could say that it's not much different. Meditation isn't much different from ordinary life. It's just focused and directed in a particular way. So meditation isn't the act of sitting still. It isn't an hour that you spend. Meditation is the work that you do during the hour that you're sitting still. It can also be work that you do throughout your day. If your intentions are directed in a particular way throughout the day, you can call that meditation. So the meditation that we practice is using mantras, and I use this word. It's not a word that people in my tradition generally use. It's not a translation that I've really ever heard used apart from myself. But to me, it's the most clearly understandable description of what it is that we do. Because mantra meditation is something very ancient. And what we do is very much in line with the descriptions in Buddhist texts about mantra meditation. It's the repeating of a word. A mantra, I think, often is a phrase, and we don't do that so much. We just pick a word. So whatever you call it, mantra or otherwise, it's a word that has a power. It has a power because it directs the mind in a specific way. I mean, a good example of mantra meditation directed in a specific way is loving kindness meditation. We have whole practices, groups of people who undertake to practice metta meditation. People who do it on a daily basis will sit and cultivate love, friendliness, by using a phrase, by repeating to themselves, may I be happy, may all beings be happy. That's a mantra. When you repeat it to yourself, it has a power because it directs your mind in a particular way. Now, the mantras that we use are meant to direct the mind, but in a bit of a different way. There's no may, there's no wish, there's no may it be so, may it be thus. We're directing our minds towards objectivity. That's the intent behind our choice of mantras. Now, the mantras themselves aren't objectivity. They're an artificial construct, and I think it's fair to say that all meditation is artificial. Saying to yourself, may all beings be happy, isn't friendliness, but it's a tool that encourages the mind in a specific way. It encourages the mind to develop friendliness. So by our choice of words, and the words themselves don't have power, but the intention and the meaning behind it for us is objectivity. When we say to ourselves, for example, pain, pain, the reason we're doing that is because we want to be objective. We're using this word as an augment for our intention. It's a stabilizer. It's a means of keeping us on track. So if we understand the sorts of words that we want to use, or the reasons why we use these words, or our intentions, then it's easy for us to understand which words to use. It's easier for us to understand the role that the words play. It doesn't make it easy to actually do it. Meditation, of course, whatever sort you do, is going to be difficult if it's something new, if it's different from your ordinary patterns of behavior. If you're normally very judgmental, partial, critical of yourself and others, then meditation objectivity is going to be difficult. If you're normally a very angry person, loving kindness is going to be difficult, and so on. So there's no question that meditation generally, in fact, you might go further and say it's meant to be difficult. I mean, a loving and kind person wouldn't have much use for or reason for practicing loving kindness. A very objective person doesn't really need to practice mindfulness meditation as we teach it. So the reason we're doing it is because it's something difficult, because we want to change. It's the difficulty that makes it valuable, directly, I mean, particularly. It's not just to say, oh, it's difficult, get over it. No, the difficulty is what it's all about. Change comes from something difficult, something different, something that we're unaccustomed to. Otherwise, it wouldn't bring any sort of change. So there's much more I can say about meditation, but I think that's a good introduction to this. So let's talk about these 6 questions we have. Not so many tonight, but that should give us some opportunity to focus on topics regarding meditation. So here's a question about walking meditation. So when you're watching the one foot move, what about the other foot that's also moving, right? There's a shifting of weight, there's movements of the other foot. This is the sort of question was the reason why I wanted to give sort of a general idea of meditation, because meditation isn't a replacement for awareness. It's about conditioning your awareness. So when we use these words, we're obviously not going to have a word for everything. We're not meant to have a word for everything. The word is a tool to remind us to be objective. So when you're saying to yourself, stepping right, yes, you potentially intermittently also know that the left foot is moving. Now, of course, it's important that you mainly know that the right foot is moving, but there will also be other sorts of awareness. There will be awarenesses of all sorts of things. That's not really a problem. Now, we do encourage meditators to move from object to object, which is why we then say stepping left, right? And if you get distracted by something else, to note it as well. But it's not about becoming hyperactive, trying to note everything. It's not magic. And it's not the most important thing. The most important aspect of meditation is that you're becoming objective. And that's going to be independent of the actual words. It's encouraged, it's supported by using the words. That's the point of them. So all of the other kinds of knowing, other kinds of awareness are great. I mean, they're a part of it, but you don't have to note everything. You don't have to note more than once every second or something like that. You know, it's when you're walking maybe a little slower, even stepping right, stepping left. So it's a few seconds. Would it be unfaithful to utilize mind-altering pharmaceuticals while following a meditative practice? So again, we can refer back to what I said about what is meditation. So to answer this question, you have to ask, what is your intention? In what way are you focusing the mind? If your goal is objectivity, mind-altering pharmaceuticals don't play any role in that. And they're quite directly a concern and a detriment to objectivity, because they're encouraging a specific state. I mean, it's an intention to give rise to altered states and states that are potentially confusing and liable to trigger thoughts and explorations, all of which have nothing to do with objectivity. Objectivity means not trying to change, not trying to condition in any way your experience. So it's letting ordinary experience continue, but changing your attitude towards it. I know there's many people who are great advocates of mind-altering pharmaceuticals, but it's not evil. It certainly could be arguably a part of a valid meditation practice, just not this meditation practice. I think that should be fairly clear why that is. Is it necessary to do walking meditation equally to sitting meditation when mind is constantly on anxiety loop? It's hard to focus, need to do lots of standing, much better to focus on anxiety. Can I decrease walking time and increase sitting time? Yes, you certainly can. Why do we try to do equal amounts of walking and sitting? A big part of that is, again, our focus on objectivity. Because if you incline towards one or the other, that's a sort of partiality. The difficulty that you're having in walking meditation could be interesting and should be something eventually that you explore. When you're anxious and it's difficult, that's potentially a good thing, to be challenged by anxiety coming up more frequently and more powerfully in walking meditation. Standing meditation is also a valid alternative. But that being said, when anxiety is overwhelming, you're actually directed to focus more on sitting meditation, because as you can see, it's more productive. That being said, again, in the long term, I'd recommend to try and do standing meditation. Start with standing, and once you're able to do standing and the anxiety isn't so powerful, then try and do walking as well. There are other reasons for doing walking. It's more active, so it teaches you how to be mindful throughout your life. It's better for the body in many ways. Walking meditation is healthy and that sort of thing. Here's 3 questions, and I kept this one. It's I almost got rid of it, but I don't like 4 questions. I don't like these compound questions because it's cheating. But they're all related. So, and it's regarding speech. Speech is interesting. For meditators, speech is important. Why are these words, these mantras, so useful? Is because speech has power. Speech is associated with intention. It's associated with inclination. The words we use can be used. I can say, I hate you and wish you would die without having any anger because they're just words. But generally, when I say those words, there's a lot of anger associated with them. I like oranges. Now, I can say those words without actually liking oranges, but saying them tends to reaffirm my liking of oranges. Again, these were just random words that I came up with. But so speech is potentially innocuous, but generally reinforces and is used most often to reinforce our intentions. So, are there so regarding right speech, what is beneficial? It has much less to do with the actual content of the speech and much more to do with your intentions. There are 4 kinds of wrong speech, but they're only wrong because of the intentions behind them. If you lie, that's wrong speech. If you have harsh speech, that's wrong speech. If you have divisive speech, trying to divide people, that's wrong speech. If you have useless speech, speaking just for no reason, again, it's because your mind is just wanting to waste time and pass time. It's all wrong speech. As for topics that are anything associated with the path, anything that has an intention, and not just intention, but is skillful and helpful in cultivating further objectivity, awareness, wisdom, that's skillful. How can skillfulness be cultivated? Again, it has to do with the mind state behind it. So skillful mind states are brought about through meditation practice, particularly objectivity, mindfulness. How do you speak kind-hearted? Understand their suffering and that you wish them happiness. Yeah, I'm not going to really touch that. I don't think it might be it's complicated. Silence always in accordance with right speech. Well, yes, because there is no speech. I mean, it's like, if you don't act, is that right action? So right speech is only right speech if it's associated with the other 7 path factors. Anything else is not particularly right speech. It's just no speech. But I think that's all I have to say about that. Okay, the choice of selecting a major object of meditation when you're distracted. So we have our basic object, and that's useful because it's when there's nothing else to note, you know right away what to go to. Otherwise, you might be waiting and seeking and searching, and that has problems associated with it. But besides this main object, the rising and the falling, for example, what happens when you're distracted? What if you're distracted by many different things? Now, I don't normally use the word major object. I tend to, I mean, my teacher, I translate directly from what he said, and he would always say, choose what is clearest. And that makes perfect sense to me. So what if 2 things are clearest, or if you don't know what is clearest? Again, back to the original talk about meditation. What is it? What is it for? It doesn't matter which one you choose. It's a tool that helps you become more objective. Pick one. Pick something that's most prominent. If something's prominent, note it. It's not magic. It's a tool that you use to help you become more objective. Use it in that way, you shouldn't really have much problem, no matter what you do. Finally, we have a question from Sidesh, who is keen to let me know that he's been practicing now for 16 to 17 months, which is good. It's a unique, we have this unique situation where he's keeping me updated on how many months he's been practicing, which is, it's heartwarming. So the latest issue is that he feels something for a girl which he met recently. In the sense of meditation has consumed me and my thoughts. I think this. Maybe I am attached to the sexuality of my very past experiences. Yes. So, I mean, a lot of your questions seem to have this. The problem with them is they just are asking me what to do about your problems, and you already know what my answer is going to be. It's just come to be more objective about it. Be objective about your habits, about your sexual desires, your romantic, your inclinations, your attraction towards this woman. I mean, it's not a quick fix and it's not a sure fix. Maybe you fail at it, but the work is there, and if you do the work, the result is there as well. It's just up to you, and it could take a long time, but if you're patient and if you're diligent, it seems like you're quite diligent, so just keep it up and make sure you're clear about the technique. And if you're interested in going more in depth, we can do an online course, we can do an intensive course. That's always open. So those are the questions. How's the live broadcast going? Okay, we have YouTube's really chatting up a storm, which I've said before is a bit of a problem, you know. Here I am trying to teach and everyone's chatting. No, it's not I'm not insulted or anything. It's just something that has to be admonished, you know. When you listen to the Dhamma, you don't chat. And there's reason for that, because chatting is a cause for unwholesome mind states. I've got a room here with people in it, and they're not chatting while I talk. Consider that. Consider that when you sit here and chat while I'm giving a talk. How wholesome is that? So posting in the chat is not wrong. Don't feel guilty about it. But if you've been sitting there chatting, maybe you should feel a little guilty about it. Not guilty, but you consider yourself admonished. Or not. I mean, maybe you disagree with me and think, oh, I just want to sit here and chat. Maybe you've got Facebook open, and maybe you're smoking a cigarette or eating some food. I can't stop you. I can't police all that. That's the thing about the internet. It's very open. It's very broad audience. It's a bold, and some people would say rash move to try and teach directly to the internet, which is why we kind of have some buffer. You know, our questions are only answered through the website, and they're vetted and so on. But there's something about being so open, because the other side is that the Buddha was never so sheltered, or he opened himself up to all sorts of people, and of course was accused and confronted by people who had very bad intentions, more so than just eating or chatting while he was talking. So I don't mind. I don't I don't mean to suggest that I'm insulted or anything or upset by it. I just want you to consider, because what is the point of listening to the Dhamma? It's to benefit you in your spiritual practice. So don't become distracted. Try and focus your attention and practice while you listen. coming out. Have a good night.